You need to consider how much time you have to dedicate to this onboarding, orientation, and integration process. And are there pros and cons of a certain model? Are there advantages or disadvantages that just aren't going to work for your program or that absolutely aren't a concern? All right, time constraints are a huge thing that I want you to consider at this point in your recruitment because that's a very real reality for us. Also relevant is your community needs, right? Are there some sites that might be in particular need right now? As someone living in Georgia, I'm very mindful of everything that has just happened in Western North Carolina. There's an AmeriCorps program or disaster relief efforts happening. They might need somebody right now, and that might dictate without you even needing to put together a plan what they need. And so community needs would be something for you to spend time assessing. Is this a big thing that needs to drive, or is this not a concern considering what my program is doing or where my program is located? So absolutely thinking about the community needs is critical. I would also say the member experience was something y'all grabbed onto right away, is that the existing members, right? A full cohort could certainly foster a great support system. Too few members could lead to a lot of burnout, right? So the members who might already be serving, or are they taking on extra work? Is this an experience where you're going to be able to integrate new members seamlessly into your cohort? Or is that going to be a real challenge? Thinking about the experience of current members, but also coming in members, right? What's the best way to approach this for your program? Has your current cohort gone through something tremendously bonding? And is it going to be challenging for members to just continually join? Or is this something where integration is going to be easier for whatever reasons make sense for your site? I also want you to think about your current recruitment strategies and reflect on what has worked and what hasn't. If there are some strategies that haven't been yielding results, like this is the time to rethink them. Absolutely worth considering before you commit to continuing to recruit. If you had to put in Herculean effort to get 10 slots filled or whatever the slots filled, is there something that you could reconsider doing moving forward? Did you need 80 applicants to fill 40 slots? That's data you really need to know. Did you only need 20 applicants to fill 10 slots? Is it a 2-to-1? You really need to think through some of those strategies and what seems to be working and what was a real struggle. This is a reflection point for you. There might need to be some things you need to stop doing, start doing, or if there's some things you need to continue doing. But this is a critical point to do that as you look to fill any remaining slots that are out there. Retention rates is also something I want you to think about and reflect on the sort of effectiveness of your current recruitment system and look at your rates in the past. Has this been a concern for your program? Has there been attrition in the past or even more recently, right? It might be worth now pausing, sort of building up some program improvements, having conversation with members about retention, thinking about how do you secure and increase retention before you bring on some new folks again. Again, I realize sometimes the reality and the timelines don't always give us a lot of breathing room, but I think this is a good time to think about it. If retention is a struggle because of particular sites, bringing on new members, you might continue to have those challenges, and then you're just going to be back in the same position in a very short amount of time. I also want you to think about long-term planning, right? How does this decision you're making and this pivot you might be making fit into your long-term strategy and goals, right? So if you have a site, I had a site when I was a program director that just was communicative and persistent about wanting a member, needing a member, what's the status of my member, when can I get it, what's recruitment going, that I feel like I often would work to get that slot filled without thinking, is this a kind of site that's going to be with us long term? Is this the kind of work that our program ultimately wants to do, right? There are some short-term gains, and you don't want to undermine your more long-term goals or your more sustainable growth by filling slots that might just be checking a box. Okay, I think we can all fall into those traps. So think about your long-term goals for your program. I also want you to think about how important flexibility is to you. Is there some flexibility for now to adjust, still meet the needs of the program with the members that you have while you get organized? Is there absolutely no flexibility? That could be an option too. You absolutely cannot wait. But if you take some time to think about what can we do now with the members that we have now to give us some time to make a plan moving forward. Sometimes fewer members can still, with some adjusted expectations, meet some program goals while you get organized. I also want you to think about getting feedback from stakeholders. That's existing members, site supervisors, community partners. Like this kind of decisions can be intimidating to do in a vacuum. So thinking about what kind of feedback you need, getting feedback on recruitment strategies, on retention challenges, getting feedback on the rolling or recruitment versus cohort based. What has worked? What do the members feel about this? Gather all that kind of data will help you at this sort of juncture in your recruitment process. Now, you also need to think about the impacts on your budget, right? The number of MSYs, this is going to impact your allocation and grant funds and your budget bottom line. So that may be your biggest concern right now, and you need to consider it. This is where I'm going to encourage you to really not make this decision alone, but talk to a finance person on your team, talk to someone from your state commission so that you're not doing the math that is barely math anyway by yourself, so that you're trying to get some feedback and decide how urgent is the budget situation, or can I prioritize something else, or does this have to be my absolute biggest priority? Potential applicants, again, this is very directly tied to recruitment strategies. Do you have a bunch of applicants in the pipeline that you weren't able to hire from your first round? Do you have a lot of folks who applied who didn't advance that you might take a second look at? Do you have folks that you wanted to hire for certain slots, but they were given to someone else, but they might consider a different site? Look at potential applicants in your pipeline at this point to help you figure out how to move forward. And then also the last thing I wanted to mention is the expectations of the sites or supervisors. Are they particularly impatient for a member? Are they feeling frustrated? Are they flexible? What are their expectations for recruitment and for start dates and for all those kinds of things? Get a sense for where their expectations are so you can either manage those expectations or can provide some feedback on what you think you'd like to do. So in the back of your mind, if you're really thinking about these two paths, rolling and recruitment, this is a whole other list of things to think about right now as you rethink how you can move forward with recruitment. And I want to give you some time to think about this for your own particular projects.